Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
A very good Sunday afternoon to you. Hopefully you have been enjoying your weekend, the first weekend of NFL playoff football. We got to see some really fun college football playoff action as we know who's now playing in the national title game. Really maybe not so fun for Oregon, who were absolutely decimated by Indiana in that one, as it will be the Hoosiers taking on the U in that national championship game. Of course, playoff football beginning today, but as you guys know, myself as a New York Jets fan, not something that I could possibly comprehend and not something that I need to worry about, as the Gang Green have not done a very good job of distracting me from a pretty boring, pretty concerning offseason here in Major League Baseball for the New York Mets, which of course is what we talk about here, as we are going to get into another domino that just fell last night. Alex Bregman heading to the Chicago Cubs as he joins the Northsiders, and why I think it is negatively impacting and will have ripple effects on the Mets' pursuit of both Cody Bellinger and Kyle Tucker. So we're going to get into that today. It is an open forum here. I'll take your questions. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And a happy Sunday once again. I am Tony Metro. You guys know the drill. Daily Mets content here on my YouTube channel. You may be watching on Twitter as well. Be sure to follow there. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. We have our new goal of hitting 6K subscribers on YouTube by opening day 2026. Really appreciate that from you guys. Be sure to leave this video a like if you are watching on the tube. Really does help the channel out quite a bit. So thank you. And you can also, of course, follow me on all my other platforms, which are listed in the description of this YouTube video down below: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook as well. Appreciate everybody being in here. Nikolai Dinero, I don't trust Mets outfielder other than Juan Soto. Well, let's be honest about it, man. There really is no other Mets outfielder at this current time. I mean, Tyrone Taylor obviously is on the roster right now, and if the season were to begin today, Tyrone Taylor would be your opening day center fielder. That's a problem. We tried that last year, and while I think Tyrone Taylor's a much better hitter than he showed in 2025, you can get away with a defensive first Gold Glove caliber center fielder patrolling the outfield grass at Citi Field if you have a roster, a lineup built around him to make up for his lack of production at the plate. That clearly was not the case last year, as center field was just a black hole as far as offensive output for the 2025 Mets. And to this point, they really haven't done any additions to this lineup. They've done more subtracting than they have done addition to this Mets lineup. Losing Brandon Nimmo in the trade. Yes, you add Marcus Semien. They're hoping for a bounce back from him at second base. It remains to be seen if that is the case. Obviously, Pete Alonso has departed for Baltimore. Yes, they signed Jorge Polanco. He cuts into that chunk a little bit of Pete's production, but this is a worse offensive team right now as it stands today than they were at the end of 2025. And that is why I'm concerned about the deal that Bregman just signed with the Cubs and how it could impact the Mets' ability to land one of Cody Bellinger or Kyle Tucker. Nikolai, again, Kyle and Cody's probably going to look for the same short-term deal like Alex if they're willing to sign short-term. That is a possibility. I think you might be referring to the short-term deal that Bregman signed with Boston last year. That was a 3-year deal, was basically $40 million AAV with an opt-out, and so he exercised it after this past season, his lone year with the Red Sox, and now is going to the Cubs. So if that's what you're suggesting, then I think that is still a possibility. But I think Bregman just set the market, and we're going to get into all the reasons why, and why I think that both Bellinger and Tucker are the beneficiaries of Bregman signing the contract that he just did with the Cubs, specifically Cody Bellinger. And we'll get into all those reasons, but let's go through the chat. Steve Douglas, I just want the Mets to get someone. We need 2 outfielders and a starting pitcher. They definitely need a starting pitcher. There have been no additions to the starting rotation to this point. Very frustrating, obviously. We have heard the Mets have their hands in all different types of potential trades. We have heard Freddie Peralta's market could heat up now that we are getting closer to pitchers and catchers reporting in February. We have not heard anything about Tariq Skubal, but as far as the free agent market, Framber Valdez is out there. Ranger Suarez is out there. I don't think the Mets are super interested in Ranger Suarez. I made a video comparing both Framber Valdez and Suarez earlier this week. You guys could check that out. It's up on my YouTube channel now. Suarez concerns me. He has seen a dip in velocity. He is not a guy that needs to get the velocity and be a flamethrower, but has seen the bread and butter, his sinker ball, lose 2 miles per hour over the last 2 years. So I think the Mets know that. I think they're more interested in Valdez. But again, the key is on their terms. They don't want to go to that 4 or 5 year mark. And it's now becoming a detriment to their ability to add talent this offseason. We'll see what happens here. There is still some time. They definitely need an outfielder. Just to get to your last point of that comment there, Steven, I think they are definitely relying on Carson Bench to come up and have an impact on this team in 2026. Now, I like the idea. Carson Bench is one of the top prospects in baseball, comes from Oklahoma State, very impressive college school, college that has produced some extremely impressive talents. I mean, Nolan McClain being one of them, former teammates together there with the Cowboys. But he is a prospect, and I have said it many, many times here on my channel, on Twitter, anywhere that you guys may be catching this. Suspects until proven otherwise. Prospects are suspects until proven otherwise. So if you are hyped and excited about Carson Bench, that is fine. But to simply go into the year and expect him to come up and immediately perform the way, say, Pete Crow Armstrong just did for the Cubs, pop 22, 24 home runs, have a 320, 350 on base percentage, and those are not the exact numbers on PCA, but if those are your expectations for Bench, that's fine. But there is no guarantee that he is going to immediately find success coming up in his rookie year. So I am totally in lockstep with you. The Mets absolutely do need to add another proven outfielder to this roster. So let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen here with you guys. We're going to take a look at some of the numbers. So the big news, obviously, last night, Alex Bregman signing a 5-year, $175 million contract with the Chicago Cubbies. Way more than I was expecting him to get. And I have actually said throughout this offseason, I said it last offseason too, even after the emergence of Mark Vientos, I wanted the Mets to pursue Alex Bregman in each of the last 2 winters. And it does not seem like they had any interest in him in either of the last 2 off seasons. Last year signing with Boston on that short-term high AAV deal with the opt-out. He exercises it. And now he gets this deal, which comes out to, I believe, $35 million average annual value for Bregman. 32 years old, about to at least turn 32. So he's entering his age 32 season here. And he gets the 5 years, which honestly, I would not have expected him to get being that age. Coming off a year where he did suffer some injuries and he missed some times. He ended up playing in, let me double check here. He got 433 at-bats in 114 games in his lone season with the Bo Sox. I mean, put up really good numbers. When Bregman was on the field, he played just like Alex Bregman of the Houston days, no doubt about it. So I would have liked the Mets to pursue him and put him at third base, maybe move Beatty over to first, let Jorge Polanco take over the permanent DH situation. But obviously the Mets not interested in that. And I can understand why at this price. So the $35 million AAV after hitting 18 homers, 62 RBIs. If you care about batting average, it was 272 last year, but a really healthy on base percentage at 360. And he ends up with an 821 OPS, which was actually the best that he has had since his 2019 season, where it was over 1,000. So it was a really strong year for Alex Bregman. Again, it was the availability, only playing in 114 games, but despite that, still putting up a 3.5 wins above replacement for Boston. So number one, it impacts the Mets in the sense that a National League contender just got stronger. The Central is probably going to be a dogfight once again between the Cubs and between the Brewers, who had the best regular season record in the National League last year. So immediately the Cubs improved their team. They are obviously out on Kyle Tucker at this point. We kind of knew that already, and I think they knew that, and that's why they pivoted to Alex Bregman, who seemingly is going to get a less expensive deal than what Tucker ultimately will sign for, at least based on what we had originally heard about Tucker entering this offseason, that 10-year deal, $400 million. That seems completely out the window now. We have heard maybe he's going to do the high average annual value deal for shorter years. Maybe he's going to get something in between 10 and 5 years, something like 7 to 8. Really no movement on that front to this point. The Blue Jays, Mets, Dodgers, the 3 teams that have been most linked to him, the Mets and Dodgers, mostly in the sense of a potential shorter-term high AAV deal. But I think Bregman getting this 5-year contract actually has a bigger impact on Cody Bellinger's market, and I'm going to explain to you why in just a moment here, but let me go back to the chat. Armand's amazing. What is up, Armand? Good to have you here. Guys, who's your NFL team? Let me know. I'm watching this Jaguars-Bills game. Of course, I'm rooting for the Jaguars as a diehard Jets fan. We cannot live in a world where the Bills get a Super Bowl. That is the one thing I can pull on their Fugazi Fukakta fans, is that they don't have a Super Bowl. And even though the Jets came 60 years ago, we still have one more than them. I want to hear. Let me know who your NFL team is and what game you guys are watching. Great game from the Bears and from the Packers yesterday. My goodness. Good for the Bears. Maybe exercising some demons finally on Green Bay. Maybe the Packers are not, in fact, the Bears' daddy. That was a great, great game yesterday. What a fourth quarter comeback from Chicago. Good for them. Jimmy James C., I think this is going to be a long year. You know, guys, I have tried to be positive as much as I can. I have put out my shorts. I have put out my videos. I have said, look, I will wait to see what happens next. I said that after the first domino fell this offseason when they traded Brandon Nimmo. And I said, it's all going to depend on what the Mets do after this. And what they have done since then is watch as Pete Alonso has departed, watched as Edwin Diaz has left for Los Angeles. They have signed Luke Weaver, Devin Williams, and Jorge Polanco. And I cannot sit here today and say that the Mets are a better team right now than they were at the end of the 2025 season. Now, that comes with a caveat. Obviously, the Mets had this epic collapse to end 2025. They were not a very good team for the final 3.5+ months of the season. But on paper, the way it looks right now, the Mets do not seem like as talented or well-rounded of a team as they did when the season concluded just a few months ago in September. So I'm with you, Jimmy. I hear you. Let's see what happens. Armand says Alex Bregman also has a no trade clause. We know, $70 million of that $175 million contract is deferred. Exact net present day value is not known, but expected to be in the range of 30 to 31 million per season. Sources say that, according to Ken Rosenthal. Thank you, Armand. So I'm not going to get into the weeds too deeply about the deferred money. I have said and been on record saying that this is something the Mets should use to their advantage, the way that the Dodgers do, the way that we are seeing in the case of the Cubs doing with Alex Bregman's deal. I won't get too deep into that. Let's just look at it from a 1,000-foot view, though. 5 years, $175 million for Bregman. That's what I want everybody here to focus on as we start to examine how that's going to impact Cody Bellinger and Kyle Tucker's market here. Nikolai says, let's not forget that the Braves had a down year. They'll be back stronger this year coming. No doubt. They have had a pretty sneaky offseason so far. They brought Raisel Iglesias back. They brought in Robert Suarez to be a setup man along with him from San Diego. So they have definitely had a solid offseason to this point. They're going to get healthier. Look, the way I see it right now, the Mets are the third best team in the National League East. And honestly, really, would you be surprised if the Marlins are not even neck and neck with them? I mean, they were down the stretch last year, and they gave us fits in the second half of 2025. So I am not going to sit here and say that the Marlins are better quite yet, but the Marlins should not be discounted either at this point. I'm not going to tell you that they're going to compete for the National League East crown, but the Mets have their work cut out for them, no doubt about it, without even mentioning the Phillies or the Braves, who I do expect to have a bounce back year. I'm right there with you, Nikolai. Armand's amazing. If you take out the deferrals and take the deal as straight 5 years, 175, and account for 2027 season loss due to a potential lockout, Bregman signed 4 years, $140 million. So I just read to you guys the numbers. He played in 114 games, swatted 18 bombs, 62 RBIs, 271 average, 821 OPS plus of 128. I mean, these numbers are the best since his 2019 All-Star runner-up MVP season. So it was a good year for Alex Bregman at 31 years old. But now entering his age 32-year-old season, here's why I'm worried about how it's going to impact Cody Bellinger's market. So we just heard that Cody Bellinger is looking for a 7-year deal. And I scoffed at it. I think we all kind of laughed at it. And I made a video about it. And a lot of you watched it. It got probably the most traction out of any of the videos I did this week because I said it's not happening. There's no way, right? Now, all of a sudden, with Bregman entering his age 32-year-old season, it doesn't seem that far-fetched that Cody Bellinger could actually land a 7-year deal. Cody Bellinger, 30 years old at the moment. He'll turn 31 in July. So he'll spend the first half of 2026 at 30 years old. He'll spend the second half as a 31-year-old. Obviously, the rest of this upcoming contract will play out through his early to mid 30s. But when he proposed, or Scott Boras said, hey, we want a 7-year deal, a lot of us just thought that's wild. That's not happening. The Mets and the Yankees seem to be the only true suitors. The Dodgers are also in that mix as well, as they always are. But 7 years is ridiculous. I mean, Bellinger coming off a really strong campaign in the Bronx, his potentially lone season with the Yankees, 29 homers, 98 RBIs. I mean, had some injury history, had some issues his final 2 years in Los Angeles. You can see only played in 95 games in 2021 and then played in 144, but it was a down year, 19 homers, 68 RBIs with the Dodgers before getting jettisoned, or rather signing a 3-year deal with Chicago, which the Cubs happily sent him off to the Yankees so that they could pursue that trade for Kyle Tucker. And so it was a really strong bounce back year for Cody Bellinger in 2025. Again, 29 home runs, 98 RBIs, 272 average, and 813 OPS. And so the reason I think that Bregman's deal could negatively impact the Mets is because they have made it clear they do not want to go past 3 years for pretty much anybody. There is very little wiggle room or flexibility in the Mets operation so far this offseason. It seems that they are glued to the idea of short-term high AAV deals, which makes sense for the Mets perspective, obviously. You can't really get too badly hurt if it's just money and not a long-term commitment. But these players obviously are looking for long-term security. It's job security. Let's call it what it is. This is their job. They want to know they have a contract for X number of years, especially guys that are going to be entering their 30s and maybe come out of this upcoming contract that they signed this winter in their mid-30s and maybe never get this opportunity to play free agency again. So Bregman gets that deal. Here's just a head-to-head comparison, and I'm sorry, I wish I can move the screen over to the right better, but I know my camera's kind of blocking it right here. This is the 2025 seasons comparing Cody Bellinger versus Alex Bregman, who, again, keep in mind, 5 years, $175 million, and he's nearly a year and 3 months older than Cody Bellinger. But in 2025, Bellinger with the edge in WAR by about 1.6. Now, granted, Bellinger played in more games, so he will get that edge naturally. As you can see, 152 games for Belly compared to 114 for Alex Bregman. We don't really care about the plate appearances. I mean, it is what it is. He played more. He's obviously going to get more plate appearances, and that is going to lead to more hits. But a near 200 hit season for Cody Bellinger. He has the edge in home runs by 11. He has the edge in RBIs by 36. Stolen bases, only 1 for Bregman, 13 for Bellinger. Not that that is a huge part of his game, but you look at the slash line, and that's very comparable to the batting average, nearly identical. 272 for Bellinger, 273 for Bregman. The on-base percentage, a big edge for Bregman by about 24 points, 360 compared to 334. But at the end of the day, the OPS, nearly identical. Bregman at 821, Bellinger at 813. The OPS plus just 3 points off in favor of Alex Bregman. And so we're talking about a guy in Bregman that just displayed maybe he's going to have some injuries in the future, getting older, just missed a chunk of time with the Red Sox in 25, compared to Cody Bellinger, who's a year and a few months younger than Alex Bregman, plays 4 positions and does them all very well, the 3 outfield spots plus first base, and put up better numbers this past year. And so I think it is very reasonable now that Bellinger can ask for a 7-year deal or a 6-year deal. And if that's the case, you may as well count the Mets out. They're not going to go there. They don't even, in my opinion, want to go to 5. I think that they would bite the bullet going to a 4th year, and even that is going to be out of David Stern's comfort zone. But to go for 5 or 6 or even 7 for Bellinger, you could just count the Mets out now. It just does not seem to fit their long-term philosophy. It does not seem to fit what they are trying to build and accomplish this offseason. And that's majorly disappointing if that's the case, because the Mets absolutely need a bat like Bellinger. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but when I saw the news scroll across my timeline last night of Bregman getting those 5 years from the Cubs, it immediately spelled doom for the Mets in their pursuit of Cody Bellinger and possibly even in Kyle Tucker as well. So I want to hear from you guys. Let me know. Leave this video a like if you guys have not already. Really appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Daily Mets content. Keep you up to date on everything they do this winter, plus the rest of Major League Baseball. Appreciate everybody tuning in here on a Sunday. Let's see. Sorry, guys, I'm a little under the weather if you couldn't tell here. Armando Meza, I wonder if Bellinger's asking price was to get Bregman signed first. Both are Boris guys. I think that's a real conflict of interest. I wouldn't put it past Scott Boras necessarily. I think that he does have the ability to play his clients off of each other in terms of how teams view him and how view them and how they negotiate with those guys. But I'm not sure about the actual legal landscape and outlook of how that works exactly. But I can imagine it can't be. There's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, I do wonder if that was part of the process. Getting Bregman that deal, he signs it. It sets the market now for Cody Bellinger, Scott Boras' other client, who just less than a week ago, we heard wants 7 years. Well, Bregman, a year older, just got 5 years. So why wouldn't you give Cody 6 or 7 at this point? So that is a very interesting point there, Armand. Enrique Garcia, Tony, would you make the following moves? Trade a bunch of prospects for Skubal or Peralta and sign Tucker on a high AAV short-term contract. I don't want to trade for Tariq Skubal, man. I've said it before. I think it's a mistake to trade for a guy that is destined to test free agency, also represented by Scott Boras. He's going to the market next winter. I think that is a given. It doesn't make sense to decimate the farm. We heard a report that the Yankees reached out to the Tigers. Detroit told them they basically wanted, quote, half their team. I don't think it's the right move for the Mets to try to trade for Tariq Skubal right now. I would wait till next offseason, try to sign him. Who knows what the landscape of Major League Baseball and the future of spending will be in the sport based on those CBA negotiations. Who even knows if there'll be a 2027 season period based on the labor negotiations. So I'm not interested in trading for Skubal. I am interested in trading for Peralta, depending on what's going back. I've seen the idea thrown out there of the Mets trading Jonah Tong for Freddie Peralta. It's simply not happening. As much as a workhorse as Peralta is, as much as he is my number one target for a potential starting pitcher trade candidate, I'm not trading Jonah Tong for 1 year of Freddie Peralta. Even if the Mets had an extension worked out with Peralta, that is not how I want the Mets to operate. Now, if you're talking Brandon Sproat, maybe also add in Ryan Clifford, I'm more willing to listen and do something like that. And some people say, well, that's a haul and that's too much. I don't believe that. I think that Sproat has a chance, a ceiling really, to be a quality number 3. I think Peralta gives you a solid 1-2 punch with Nolan McLean right now. But I'm not trading Jonah Tong for just 1 year of Freddie. Sproat, another story. It'll take a little bit more than that. The Brewers want to continue to compete. Replace someone with Peralta in that rotation. It might have to be a David Peterson type, someone like that, as well as another prospect in addition to Sproat. So I like the idea. As far as Tucker, absolutely. Give me Kyle Tucker. I would love that. And we're going to get into him and how Bregman's deal could potentially impact Tucker's market as well, as we have learned some new stuff over the last 24 hours regarding the right fielder. Let's go. Tony HVAC, you can do both. You can. It depends on the prospects and if we're allowed an extension. All right, yeah, so just like I was talking about. Andre Belly to the Dodgers. Yeah, I really hope not. He obviously began his career in LA. That's where he got hurt, and it was on a celebration after hitting a home run, doing one of these, armed kind of things with, I think it was Kike Hernandez, and that really kind of derailed his career and hurt him for a while there with Bellinger. Let's see, Tony HVAC. Also, I don't see the Dodgers signing anyone of the big free agents. If they were going to, they would have already, unless they fall in their laps. I do think that the Dodgers are kind of in a wait-and-see approach. They really don't need to add anything else. They got Edwin Diaz already. They stole him away from the Mets. I think they're gearing up to try to sign Tariq Skubal or Freddie Peralta next offseason, or trade for either of them during this year's deadline. So I do think the Dodgers are kind of in a wait-and-see approach, because let's be honest, what else do they really need to add at this point? Just got ranked the number 1 farm system according to MLB Pipeline. They are set. But if something happens to fall in their lap and the market comes back to them, then yes, they will pounce, just like the Mets were hoping to. I think the Bregman deal negatively impacts the market coming back to the Mets at this point. Tony, they're not missing any games in 27. I really hope not. Let's hope not, right? Your lips to God's ears, Tony HVAC. Armand's amazing. My trade offer is Peterson Sproat and Nick Morbido for Peralta and $250K in international free agent money. Wow, that's interesting. When you start throwing in international free agent money, that pool money kind of gets convoluted. I don't know if that would that be this year's? It would have to be for next year's international free agent pool money. I think you're suggesting, Armand, because this year, obviously, the Mets are looking to acquire more pool money because they have this deal now with Wandy Esijan, who defected from his agreement with the Yankees and is now coming to the Mets, and by many accounts is the top international free agent in this year's class. The Mets still have commitments from other guys they like from this group, so the Mets are looking to acquire more international free agent money. That is this offseason. So if you mean for 2027's class, then yeah, I can see how that might get it done. Peterson, Sproat, Morbido, somebody that the Mets protected and put on their 40-man roster to avoid him being selected in the Rule 5 draft this winter. So someone that the Mets value and believe that other teams would have tried to poach from them had they not put him on his 40-man roster. A lot of good hit tools, and seems like a real athlete, something the Mets are trying to continue to build in their farm system and bring up to the big league club. So interesting proposal there from you. Real quick, let's get into this Cody Bellinger article actually from ESPN. So we know that the Yankees have been hot on Bellinger's heels, looking to get him in, and they have actually made him 2 separate offers. And now we're hearing that there's a little bit of an impasse between the two. This from Buster Only. Contract negotiations between the Yankees and Bellinger are at an impasse. The Yankees were hoping to re-sign the veteran outfielder who played well for them last season, but are now operating under the assumption that Bellinger is going to sign elsewhere. New York is now seeking additions elsewhere. The Yankees have offered Bellinger a 5-year deal for at least $30 million per season, which, if you told me at the beginning of this winter that 5 years, $150 million for Cody Bellinger, I'd say he would have signed it like that at the drop of a hat. And I would have respected that type of offer from the Yankees, because that's about where I would value Cody Bellinger at this point in his career. He's a guy that has had some injury history. He is now very soon going to be on the wrong side of 30. And how much longer does that defensive versatility play out? I would wager probably good enough for the next 4 to 5 years. After that, you don't want to probably have him on your team still paying him that much money. But 5 years, $150 million, and Cody Bellinger is still seeking more. And that is where this whole deal with Alex Bregman is very concerning. But let's continue. Pete Alonso signed a 5-year, $155 million deal with the Baltimore Orioles, and Kyle Schwarber signed a 5-year, $150 million deal return to the Philadelphia Phillies. Bellinger's camp, he's represented by Scott Boras, as we know, is seeking a deal longer than 5 years and worth more in average annual value than the $30 million per season he has been offered. So look, here's the thing. Kyle Schwarber is 34 years old. He just hit 60 home runs. Kyle Schwarber is a much better power threat. He doesn't draw as many walks as Bellinger, but he is a complete game changer with his propensity for hitting the long ball as compared to Cody Bellinger, right? But he is 4 years older. So he got 5 years and $150 million. We know Pete got 5 years and $155 million at first base with Baltimore. But we also know, of course, Kyle Schwarber is a permanent designated hitter. He doesn't even own a glove. Pete Alonso is not a very good fielding first baseman. One of the big reasons he's not still in Queens. So I can understand Cody Bellinger and Scott Boras' perspective of saying, hey, not only am I younger than those guys, but I also play 4 different positions, all 3 outfield positions at an above average level. Oh, and by the way, I can play first base. And who's one of my top suitors? The richest team in baseball, the New York Mets, who have needs in all of those spots. Left field, center field, first base, the biggest glaring issues that the Mets still need to fill. So I completely understand where Scott Boras and Cody Bellinger's camp are coming from, where they're expecting or at least seeking a longer and more expensive contract than what Kyle Schwarber got and what Pete Alonso got. I mean, if we could just take a quick look at Cody Bellinger's WAR compared to Kyle Schwarber. Obviously, we know Schwarber doesn't play the field. He's a permanent designated hitter. But then you got Cody Bellinger, who can go out there, give you defensive versatility, play all those different positions, and they'll be a pretty potent bat at the plate. So let's go over. We got Bellinger. Let's go to Schwarber for 2025. We're just going to look at their 2025 seasons and see what came out for these two guys. Sorry, again, guys, I'm a little under the weather, as you can hear here, but glad to have you all with me. Leave this video a like if you guys have not already, and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. Let's see. Truth hurts. Wilkie, nice hair. 20 years from now, not so much. LOL. Maybe, I don't know. It's doing pretty well so far. Lightstream 78. I hope the Lars Nootbaar rumors are not true. He's just mad. I haven't heard anything about Lars Nootbaar. I'll look that up. Is there anything about the Mets being related to Lars Nootbaar? Because that would not excite me very much at all. I'll tell you that much. Lightstream says the issue with Cody Bellinger is that he has a history of inconsistently, is actually unplayable at times. Isn't that a legitimate concern? It is 100%. I'm with you. That has been a major concern about Cody Bellinger, where at times where he just looks completely lost, which is why I think the marriage between him and the Yankees and the Bronx just makes the most sense. I know it was just 1 year. You could turn back into a pumpkin, but that swing is made for right field at Yankee Stadium. He had such a strong bounce back season with them. It just makes all the sense in the world for Cody Bellinger to go back to the Yankees, but he is looking for what they are not offering at this point. And so maybe the Mets can swoop in. I do have concerns about that inconsistency, like you said, Lightstream, and where he becomes unplayable at that point. I have a fear of Citi Field potentially zonking his power with the big gap in right center field and not as much of a short porch down the line like they have at Yankee Stadium. All warranted, no doubt about it. And that is why this Alex Bregman deal, in my opinion, definitely makes it more difficult for the Mets to potentially land him. And honestly, the Yankees as well. This is not a Yankees channel, though. We don't do a whole lot of talking about them unless it relates to the Mets. In this case, it does. So we will see what happens here. Ron's amazing. I can Bellinger get the Bregman deal without the no trade clause. You could see Bellinger getting the Bregman deal without the trade clause. So 5 years, $175 million. The question is who? Because I don't think the Dodgers are going to give him that deal. Definitely not. I think they would do the short-term high AAV. That's not a short-term deal, obviously, on 5 years. The Yankees don't seem to be interested in spending any money this offseason. I mean, they have done very, very little other than retain a couple of fledgling around the margin type of players, a.k.a. Paul Blackburn, Ahmed Rosario, those kinds of names, right? So I don't know what the Yankees' plan is at this point, but I don't know who would give Bellinger that 5-year, $175 million deal. And so, guys, this is my point here. Kyle Schwarber got the 5 years, $150 million from the Phillies. Maybe a little bit of a hometown discount. I don't know. We know the Mets offered him, I believe it was 3 years and $120 million, something like that, right? But Schwarber, actually, despite playing 10 more games, he played in every game this year, obviously all of them at DH, had a less wins above replacement total than Cody Bellinger did. 5.1 wins above replacement for Cody Bellinger in 2025 compared to 4.7 for Kyle Schwarber, despite hitting nearly 60 home runs. I misspoke earlier. I'm sorry, 56. All right, round up, right? 56 home runs, 132 RBIs, and Bellinger still outdid him and edged him in wins above replacement this year. That just speaks to the level of defense and versatility that Cody Bellinger brings to the table, being able to play all three outfield spots and at a very high level, and being able to get thrust into the first base position if necessary as well. Does any of that sound like it might appeal to the New York Mets? Yeah, you bet your butt it does. So I get it. I get why they're asking for what they're asking for. Schwarber is also 34 years old. Bellinger doesn't turn 31 until this upcoming July. So as much as it seemed like a pipe dream for that 7-year contract that Scott Boras had proposed earlier this week, it seems a lot more realistic now based on the deal that Alex Bregman just got. And that is concerning to me as a Mets fan as they look to improve their outfield. Tony HVAC says, Lightstream Stearns will never give up the prospects required for Skubal. No, I don't think he will. And honestly, I don't think it's the right decision to give up the prospects that the Tigers are seeking. That doesn't seem like a very good idea to trade for a guy that's going to cost half your farm. That's going to be a free agent next year. A guy that's going to be 30. And so you'll sign him for his entire 30s for this next contract. I'm okay with giving him the money next year. There's no need to trade for him right now. And as frustrating as that is, and as much as I'm usually a fan of, hey, trade for a guy, let him get his feet wet, see how he likes it here, maybe get an extension worked out, kind of in the case of when the Mets traded for Francisco Lindor from Cleveland, I don't think this is the right guy to do that for. Top pitcher in the game, value is at its peak, back-to-back Cy Young winner in the American League, plenty of suitors around, going to have a high figure in arbitration this year. So I'm going to pass on trying to trade for Tariq Skubal, just based on what we've heard the Tigers are seeking in a potential return. Danny, Sorry, guys. Tony HVAC. I don't see anyone giving him that. As far as I'm thinking, you're talking about Cody Bellinger getting that 5-year, $175 million deal that Bregman just signed. Yeah, I don't know who it would be. Like I said, I don't think it would be the Dodgers. I definitely do not think the Mets are going to 5 years on Bellinger and at that cost, which would be $35 million AAV. And I don't think the Yankees want to go there either. So this could just continue to get drawn out because it sounds like the Yankees are moving on. This could be posturing from their side. As far as the Mets, like I said, they are comfortable in that 3-year zone. They don't want to go past it, even though I think in some cases they need to be a little more flexible and do so if they want to improve their outlook for 2026. Danny Caps, whatever player that hasn't been linked to the Mets has a better shot wearing a Mets uniform than any player the media mentions. I mean, that has been the case. Nobody heard about Jorge Polanco. All we were listening to was Bellinger and Tucker and, Dylan Cease and, all those names. And none of them have obviously signed with the orange and blue. So I'm with you, man. It seems like anyone that the Mets have been rumored to be interested in or looking at, kicking the tires on, checking in on, have gone to other teams so far. So the way the cards have been laid out, I have to agree with you, Danny. D. Morales says, got to get one of those guys. Yeah, I hope so. And we're going to turn our attention here now to Kyle Tucker and as it pertains to the Bregman deal. Armand's amazing. I see the Blue Jays giving it to Bellinger if they lose out on Tucker. Now, that would be interesting. And boy, would that chap Yankees fans' asses if he went to Toronto, who beat them not only for the AL East, but also in the ALDS and very nearly won the World Series this year. If they steal Kyle Tucker away after the impressive offseason that Toronto has had, that would be pretty impressive. Let's see. Christopher Foster, breaking news, and Mets signed Max Kepler to a minor league deal per your inside sources. Well, I don't think that's true. Max Kepler just got dinged for performance-enhancing drugs. So I go back to my stream after I said he's a crappy ball player. I couldn't believe he hit a home run off the Mets when they were playing each other in August, and I had Philly fans infiltrating this place where I said he's bad, and they couldn't believe I said that. Max Kepler's not a good baseball player, and guess what? Took performance-enhancing drugs this year and still was really bad. So, sayonara. Tony HVAC, talking to Armand there. Yeah, they still got Santander. Toronto does for 3 to 4 more years. Livestream says Stearns is banking on bounce backs from Senga and Manaea. I suppose that is fair because how could they do worse? I mean, that's a good point. Obviously, Manaea didn't pitch in the first half, was really brutal in the second half. Senga great in the first half till that hamstring injury, then came back and it didn't do well. And you know what? I think I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but I said it at some point toward the end of this season or in the offseason beginning of it, that I thought that Sean Manaea kind of rushed himself back because we know that originally he had an issue with, I believe it was his oblique. And then as he was going through his rehab appearances, getting ramped back up to return, they found out about the loose bodies in his pitching elbow. And I believe that doctors probably told Manaea, hey, it can't get worse if you go out and pitch, but we could also do something about it. And I feel like Manaea felt pressured after signing the 3-year, $75 million contract last offseason to get back out there for the Mets and try to anchor their rotation, right? I think he felt not guilty, but maybe in a way a little guilty that he needed to get out there and, provide for his team, go out there. And I think he rushed himself back. And I think that was a mistake. And I think that the results are evident of that. So maybe we're going to get a bounce back from Manaea. Maybe we're going to get first half Kodai Senga or some version of that. And we'll continue to get steps from Nolan McLean and steps from maybe Jonah Tong and Brandon Sproat if they're still with the organization, barring any trades. David Peterson, really solid for the first 4 months. Obviously, the final 2 months were disastrous. And then Clay Holmes, despite a few bumps in the road, ends up putting together a really solid campaign with 30-plus starts last year. So the rotation, as much as we want to harp on it and how much they need to improve it, and they haven't made any changes, I agree. But I also don't want the Mets to just completely sell the farm, pull the rug out from under themselves to make a big trade that's going to kill the future of direction of this team. Let's see. Ibby, I ain't panicking. I'm not panicking, Ibby. As you guys know, Ibby from Till Mets Do Us Part does a great job with John. I ain't panicking. But as more and more names come off the board, it gets more and more concerning about how the Mets are going to improve this team. We have not heard an inkling about any of these potential trades that they have been talking about with other teams, whether it's regarding the rotation or the lineup, finding a position player, specifically in the outfield. And as we see Bregman signing this deal, it makes a lot of sense now that Cody Bellinger just got a lot more leverage in his negotiations. So let's move our attention to Kyle Tucker. As I mentioned, Tucker has started this offseason seeking that decade-long deal for maybe $400 million. It does not sound like any team is interested in doing that. The team that he was just with, obviously the Cubs, really never seemed like they were actually going to be in on his market, and they were aware of that. They pivoted to Alex Bregman here on now a 5-year, $175 million deal. Tucker is 28 years old. He'll turn 29 actually in 5 days. Happy early birthday to Kyle Tucker. So let's just assume, for all intents and purposes, Kyle Tucker is 29 years old. What is he going to get now based on what Bregman just got, who's about to be 32 years old? The 10-year deal is out the window, if you ask me. But a 7, maybe an 8-year contract? Does that sound a little more reasonable? I personally am all about that. I personally am totally okay with giving Tucker that kind of deal. Because as we have said here many times on the streams, this is one of the top 10 and at worst top 15 hitters in Major League Baseball, and has been for a number of years now, even coming off a quote-unquote down year with Chicago where he missed some time. That has definitely been a concern for Tucker over the last couple of years. Has missed time in the second half, his final season with Houston in 2024, and again here with the Northsiders in 2025. And yet, despite that, you see over the past 5 seasons since 2021, consistently has been around a 5 wins above replacement type player, if not above that. 5.3 in 21, 5.5 and 5.5 again in 2022 and 2023, and 2024. 4.7, 4.6 here in his lone season with Chicago at age 28. Obviously missed a little bit of time in 2025. He missed virtually an entire half a season in 2024. Still put up that gaudy 4.7 number there, as you guys can see on the screen. But I am all about trying to get Kyle Tucker, and I am at this point willing to give him that 7-8 year deal. If you're telling me it's between Cody Bellinger, who has his ups and downs, who is inconsistent, and as Lightstream pointed out, at times is unplayable, versus Kyle Tucker, who, is going to miss some time. He's had his own injury history, but he is the younger of the two. He could slot into left field immediately. There's no pressure now on Carson Bench to be able and ready to debut in his rookie season on opening day and perform. You could put Tucker in left. You can live with Tyrone Taylor playing spectacular defense in center field up the middle, with Kyle Tucker slotted in at the third hole, 3 hole, whatever you want to call it, behind Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor at the top of this order. You feel a lot better about this lineup with Kyle Tucker in it. There's no doubt about it. Let me go to the chat really quick. Livestream says, if all things are equal in spring training, who is it at the top of the opportunity chain between Scott, Sproat, and Tong? I think in terms of who gives the Mets the best, let me rephrase that. I think in terms of who the Mets believe is the best of that group, it's Jonah Tong without a doubt. But I think in terms of how the Mets are going to deploy them, I think they'll go with Christian Scott as long as he's fully healthy. I think that he has the lowest value right now, but I think that they do also want to find out what he is coming off Tommy John and coming off his short time in the big leagues in 2024. So I think in the case that the Mets were, let's just call it like beginning of May, the Mets are in need of a starting pitcher. Somebody just went down, or they just have several games in a row without, many off days. I think they go to Christian Scott first if he is in fact healthy. That is, of course, if Brandon Sproat and Jonah Tong are beginning the season in AAA, right? If they are with Syracuse, I think they go to Christian Scott first. And it sounds kind of bad, but I think because the Mets probably don't value him as much, and they are not really totally concerned about his well-being or about his long-term development. And I feel bad saying that. I could be totally off the mark here, but just in terms of asset management, I don't think they want to do anything that could potentially derail the ascension of Tong or of Brandon Sproat. I think they do still believe in both of those guys to come up and be very quality big league pitchers. I think to a degree they have that about Christian Scott, but all bets are kind of off now with him coming off of Tommy John surgery. and virtually not pitching for well over the last year plus. So let's see. Who else am I missing here? Ibby, I really feel like we're going to get hit with something. I hope so, man. And guys, this is the place where we're going to talk about it. Subscribe to the channel. Leave this video a like for all the latest updates on the Mets moves this offseason and all winter long. So I hope, Ibby, I really hope that something happens here. And who knows, man, we got the news of Juan Soto signing last year. Yes, it was in the winter meetings, but it was a late Sunday night. And we got the news that Juan Soto was coming to the Mets on a 15-year deal. So you just never know. But that's why you got to turn channel notifications on. Go hit that alarm bell right now. Subscribe to the channel. And this will be your place where we will break it all down. I'm going to go another maybe 10 minutes or so. We got our playoff football on. Like I said, Jaguars over the Bills, baby. I'm sorry. I'm sure there are some Bills fans in here, but it ain't me. Like I said, I'm a Jets fan. I don't know what playoff football is like, but I'm going to enjoy a potential Bills loss as they're trailing right now 7-3 to the Jaguars, who are inside the 10. Let's see what happens in this one. Trigon says Bregman an upgrade for the Cubs. I don't know. I think Tucker's a far more talented player at this point in his career than Bregman is, but I think that Tucker's going to be more expensive. So as far as a value standpoint in terms of the contract and the actual pay, I think that, the Cubs did well to get Bregman on this kind of deal. I do. It's a little more than I would have expected him to get, but I think the Cubs did a good job of getting close to replacing Tucker's production, if not doing so, while also filling a hole on their infield that they had at third base and doing it for much cheaper than what Tucker was expected to get entering this offseason. So I think it was a really, really solid deal by the Chicago Cubs to land Bregman. Nikolai says, if I was Steve, I would give 7 for $250, take it or leave it. As far as Kyle Tucker, yeah. I mean, I said that exact deal, man. 7 years, $250, front load it $40 million on the first year. Give him an opt-out after the 2026 season. If he wants to retest the market, great. If not, still is getting paid an average annual value of about $34 million per year, right in line with about what the top hitters in Major League Baseball are getting right now. So I would give that to Kyle Tucker in a heartbeat. I think it's a win-win on both sides. It's obviously less than what Tucker expected this offseason, but look, you can cry and ask for the deal you wanted all day long, but if there is no one out there willing to give it to you, you may just have to settle, and that may be the case here with Kyle Tucker. Armand is amazing. Tony HVAC, the Jays have $150 million coming off the books after this year, and they get signed Bellinger to that deal and play him in right. Yeah, Toronto, man, they really are in a good spot. They absolutely could do just that. Good point there by you, Armand. Let's see, Danny Cap Scott has been a name I haven't heard the Mets say in a long time. Yeah, like I said, I think that anything you get from Christian Scott is gravy at this point. I know a lot of guys come back from Tommy John. They are just as good as they were, but we know Scott had a propensity to give up the home run ball even before Tommy John surgery. So I enjoyed him, but I'm not banking on him to be a major part of this rotation. Like I said, anything that Christian Scott provides to the Mets rotation this year is just gravy in my opinion. Let's see. Ibby, God bless you, Tony. Jets Mets aim for the week. Yeah, it's a tough life. It's a tough life, Ibby. Appreciate you tuning in, man. Let's see. Armand's amazing. Damn right, Ibby. We Mets and Jets. That's right, Armand. Another Jets fan here in the chat. Let's do this real quick. Let's do a comparison. Let's do Cody Bellinger versus Kyle Tucker now for the 2025 season and see where those two guys fall. Obviously, Cody Bellinger played in many more games than Kyle Tucker did. Tucker's a little bit younger. Tucker will turn 29 in a few days. Bellinger turning 31 in about 5 months or so, 6 months in July. So Bellinger has the edge, Tucker has the edge in terms of age. Naturally, like I said before, when we compared Bellinger to Schwarber, he's going to win in the wins above replacement against Tucker because he played in more games. 136 for Kyle Tucker this past year compared to 152 for Cody Bellinger, but a discrepancy of about 0.5 WAR between Kyle Tucker and between Cody Bellinger. Tucker has won a Gold Glove in right field. He's not been amazing out there over the last couple of years, but he is a quality right fielder, no doubt. And like I have also said before, as it pertains to the Mets' pursuit of Tucker, I would put Juan Soto in left and put Tucker in right field. I think it would tremendously improve the outfield defense really not a great performance from Juan Soto out there in right field, and we all know that. You look at the negative defensive run saved. I think it was at 12 last year for Juan Soto. Is he passable? Yes, but when you get into the deeper numbers, it's not great, and I think he would benefit from going to left field, where it is far less cavernous at Citi Field than it is in right field. So that would be a move that I would absolutely 100% do. Let's go to chat real quick. Carlos Ortiz, what is up? He says, hey, Tony, good to see you, Carlos. Appreciate you tuning in, my man. Happy Sunday. Randy says, Stearns is not doing S. Yeah, well, so far, not so much. But taking a look here, the direct comparison between Bellinger and Tucker. Home runs, the edge to Bellinger, 29. We know that Wrigley Field obviously has a knack for zapping power on some guys with the wind conditions out there in Chicago, right? How much that affected Kyle Tucker, I'm not sure. RBIs, though, 25 more for Cody Bellinger. Tucker, 12 more stolen bases. It's not the biggest part of his game, but the Mets would be happy to add 25 stolen bases. Of course, who wouldn't be? As far as the slash line, it's very comparable other than the on-base percentage. 377 for Tucker, who obviously walks a lot more than Cody Bellinger does. And the OPS, that's a big edge for Kyle Tucker. 841 compared to Bellinger's 813, and the OPS plus 143 compared to Bellinger's 125. So, look, I don't think there's a doubt about it. I think Tucker is the more talented, better hitter than Cody Bellinger is. The defensive versatility and the defensive ability that Bellinger brings to the table, though, is something that he has over Kyle Tucker. And then you look at the age, well, that goes to Tucker. So it's a very convoluted thing. If there's a long-term bet, I give it to Tucker. I give the 7 or 8 year deal to Tucker more than I want to give the 5-year deal to Cody Bellinger, who's been up and down throughout his career. Despite the injury history, the second half woes that Tucker has experienced recently, again, I go back to this number, the wins above replacement, the 5.3, the 5.5s, even in a season where he only played 78 games in 2024, of 4.7 wins above replacement. And I believe he's going to give you that for at least the first 4 to 5 years of a potential long-term deal if you sign Kyle Tucker. So I'm hoping the Mets are going to make something happen here. I really am. They need to improve this outfield. We will see as far as the rotation. We have heard they're counting on bounce backs from Anaya, from Senga. We will see the development of the young guns and McLean and Tong and Sprout and the other names that we just don't have time to get down that rabbit hole with. But I do think the Mets cannot afford to go into 2026 without one of these two guys, either Tucker or Cody Bellinger. So we'll see what happens. Guys, I think we'll wrap it up here. I wanted to check in with you on a Sunday here before we got too deep into NFL playoff football. Don't know who you're rooting for, but I'll root for your team as long as it's not the Buffalo Bills, obviously. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave this video a like on your way out. Let me know in the comment section. Who do you want the Mets to pursue at this point? Do you want it to be Tucker? Do you want it to be Bellinger? Is it someone else? Is there a trade candidate that you're hoping the Mets get in on? I want to hear. Let me know in the comments section. Share this video with a Mets and baseball fan in your life. We're trying to get to that goal of 6K subscribers by opening day 2026. So we got about 2.5 months or so to accomplish that. Can't do it without you guys. So as always, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Let's go to the chat real quick before we end. Livestream chat. Chisholm's a free agent out this year. I think he'd bring some good energy to the team. We'll see what happens about Jazz. I'm not personally too interested. And besides, we're all going to hear it. Mets going for Yankee scraps again. So I don't know. Too far down the line. Armand, thank you for tuning in. Ibby, thank you. You're the king. Appreciate it, bro. That's going to do it for now, though, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy your NFL playoff football here. And we'll catch you next time. Until then, though, I'm Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.